Jenner's known for this, which is so much fun. Is it cake? This is Jenner. This is Jenner's like whole initiative that took us all through COVID and being in lockdown when nothing felt real and a lot of things. Okay. So this is our amazing panel this morning. So to start things off, I'm going to ask, let's see, who wants the first question, or should I just throw them out there and you guys decide?
Just throw them out.
Okay. You just push the button and make it ring. Yep, that's great. Okay, we're going to start with Jenner. What makes something go viral? Can you make it go viral?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've made stuff go viral a lot. This is the $1 million question for 1 million cups. Everyone wants a formula, everyone wants a tactic, toolkit, a secret sauce. The answer that no one wants to hear is that it really is intuitive. You really have to feel the internet out. It is social media for a reason. I like to think of social media as walking into a house party. You wouldn't have templates. You wouldn't have pre-prescribed copy. You would feel it out. You would enter in conversations that you enjoy and leave them when you don't enjoy them. And some things go well sometimes and take off and turn into a 3-hour deep dive, and sometimes they don't. And everyone wants to really control this, and I think the more control you have, like the more in a restrictive state you are, the less the content is going to perform. And so my advice is like, feel out the moment. How are you feeling? It's probably how a lot of other people are feeling. What do they need to hear right now? I think this cake video is a perfect example. I was running the social video team at BuzzFeed at the time, and we were all locked down in COVID. The world was falling apart. We were all questioning our reality. We had done hyper-realistic cake videos dozens of times before. They had never taken off this way, but it was just hitting the moment at the right time when people were like, is everything made out of cake? I don't know. And it just took off because it was like hitting the zeitgeist right at the moment that it needed to. And I think too, like, have fun. Like, everyone wants to take this really seriously. It's like marketing and, dollars spent and strategies and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, like, you should be having fun. The people that are winning big on social media are really loving what they do. They are passionate about the content they're creating. They're doing it from a place of inspiration and heart and not strategy and like restrictive control. So that's my non-answer to going viral.
Okay, awesome. When building a brand from scratch, let's stop raining. When building a brand from scratch, how do you identify the emotional core that resonates with your target audience? Like, how do you find your brand identity?
Yeah, that's a great question. We start with what we call a brand story. And so we actually work with our clients and learn who they are and who they're trying to attract. We really do a lot of strategic work, understanding who they're trying to reach. Because what happens a lot is brands, they think that they're designing for themselves. They think that they are the hero in their own stories. So essentially they are trying to produce, content that reaches them, but that's not who they're trying to sell to. And so what we do is we flip it and we help our clients understand that they aren't the hero in the story, but in fact, the hero is the person that is out there that doesn't know that you have some amazing thing that might make their lives better. And then we develop a story around how to attract that particular person. And it's, you know, it's a pretty rigorous process, but ultimately, once we develop that brand story, it becomes the through line to everything that we create, everything that touches their audience, everything that attracts through social media, through their website, when they, and essentially it becomes essentially the culture of that particular brand, because as you onboard new employees, as you onboard other partners, like it becomes part of the script of which they internalize so that they are always on brand, so to speak.
Awesome. Craig, how do you define and measure success in early stage marketing campaigns when sales are not the only indicator?
It's also another great question because in this case, we have a client that doesn't sell anything except for awareness. So that to me is the biggest metric. If you're going to be, even if you are selling something, but in the early stages, there's with digital marketing, there's so many ways of analyzing and looking at how much either how many clicks you're getting, how much time spent on the site, there's so many analytical tools that you can look at to see whether or not your message is resonating. And then you have to obviously continue to focus on tuning that message in order to, if you are selling something, to convert to sales. But the initial phases are pretty easy to do nowadays. If you don't have somebody on your team that knows how to do it, I don't. You have to find somebody who does, and there's a lot of those folks out there who can go look at the inside of your Google Analytics, you can look at all of your MailChimp metrics, and you can totally see stories very quickly.
So to that end, like what do you kind of recommend for people to start off on? Like, you know, we have the options of what? Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google ads, like.
I think the best thing is it kind of ties together what both of these folks have said. You have to have fun, but you also have to know intimately who is your customer. And that takes a little time to figure out. And then you also have to know who you are. One of the things I heard, I was at a conference somewhere, and the head of Airbnb marketing was talking, and he said that the way that they kind of built and got off the ground was, he said, target the crazies. Find the people who are so passionate about your product, your idea, what you offer, and just smother them, be all over those girls. So when you find your crazies, because then they become advocates and evangelists and they talk about you. So whatever they're using, it could be that it's LinkedIn. I mean, where are your crazies? Go to them first.
Oh, like that. So for startups with limited time and money, Reggie, what are the 3 most important brand assets to prioritize in the first 6 months? Or years?
So limited time and money. They probably shouldn't be starting a business if they're limited time and money. If they're going for it, you most certainly need a logo because you need to have that identifier. You also need to have your brand story, because otherwise you don't know how, the thing I talked about before, you don't know how to connect to that audience. And if you want to be successful in a short period of time, you have to absolutely, sorry about that, you have to absolutely know how to speak to your audience once you find it. So brand story, and then I would say a microsite, maybe not some big overblown website, but you know, maybe either a single pager or like minimal, maybe, or max, maybe 3 pages.
But also not coming soon.
No coming soon, no under construction, none of that. Like if you can't do a website and you have a really experienced social media marketing person, like pay them to get the word out if you don't have a website. But ultimately, those are my 3 recommendations. Logo, brand story, microsite.
That's good. Okay, this one's for Jenner. For founders who don't want to be the face of the brand, how can they still succeed on social media?
That's a good one. First of all, there are so many faceless options that work really, really well. The biggest metric of engagement that we look for is something called shareability. You want people to share your content. that is the highest rewarded engagement for the algorithm too. So if you get a bunch of views, that's great. If you get a bunch of likes, even better. If you get a bunch of comments, even better than that. But like, if we were to give it a score, likes would be like 1 point, comments would be like 10 points, and shares would be like 100 points. So you want to make stuff that people want to share. Either they want to share it with their friends, or they want to share it on their stories. And that could just be information. Giving away high value information. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see is that brands think social media is a free marketing arm of their business, and that is not how you should be using it. You should not be promotional first. You should be of service to your core audience that you've discovered through your brand story. So, and those evangelists, like, I love that. Find your crazies. Those are the people that will share your stuff everywhere. They're going to share it in their group chat threads. They're going to share it on their stories. Like, they're going to talk about your stuff. So make it shareable, make it high value information. Even some of the like lowest lift formats out there are like, it looks like it's a tweet, and you can make it in Canva. You could actually, post it on X and take a screenshot of it, but it just looks like a tweet graphic, and they just post a screenshot of it on Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn, and it has like, seven apps that every founder needs, and it's like a list of things. That's really high value information that if I'm a founder, I'm going to save that. I'm going to share it with other people I know that are trying to start businesses. So make it really shareable. And then the other, like, I kind of left this out of my first answer on virality, but there's a formula called a familiar surprise. There's an amazing book called The Hit Makers. It's how to stand out in an age of distraction. And there are 3 core theories in that book, and familiar surprise kind of ties them all together. Audiences are both neophilic and neophobic at the same time. They like new stuff, but they're afraid of something that's too new. So you want to take something that is familiar and put a twist on it. The example in the book is Star Wars. Star Wars is a Western movie set in space. It has all of the same tropes and characters of a Western film, and it had a brand new environment, and so it was really well received. So you want to try and create these moments of familiar surprise. What is the familiar thing? What is the surprise? Another example, when I was at BuzzFeed, we would make compilation videos of like TikTok chefs, right? People making food at home in their kitchen during lockdown. And one time a producer sent me the video, and it started with fried rice, which was really good. I ended up making fried rice. But like 2 or 3 videos deep into the compilation was a Vietnamese quesadilla. And we pulled that to the front of the video, started with the Vietnamese quesadilla, and that video did like 32 million views. Because everyone knows what a quesadilla is, they don't know what the Vietnamese version is. So that's a perfect familiar surprise. So try to find what is your familiar surprise, how can you incorporate that into your content, and how can you make something that's like highly shareable. Either it really is super relatable to your core audience's identity, their experience, or it's really high value information that you're giving away for free.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So Craig, are there any like specific, if you're like launching a brand or wanting to expand your brand, are there any like partnerships, events, or things like that in terms of strategy that you would make? People have the option of the chamber. Is that time and energy well spent, or what do you see? And it could be what do they call that? It's like the Ronald thing, like graffiti. Anyway, you know what I'm saying?
So I would generally answer the question that partners are amazing as long as you and your customers would consider that they're brand positive partners. Don't just partner with somebody because they can help you get your word out in a certain way if they don't add to your brand. In all the work that I've done, specifically at McAnsh, we had a lot of partners back in those days. And some partners would be like Steven Spielberg and Jurassic Park, and some partners would not be of that caliber. So we would have to be very disciplined in which partners would be additive to our brand. And we have a rule that if brand negative or even brand neutral partnerships, we would do only brand positive. So think about that as you're assessing any partnership that you're going to do. Are they adding value to how you communicate with your key customer? Maybe they're the crazies, but maybe they're just the customers you define. Only think about those. But absolutely, events and partnerships can help expand and be a force multiplier for your message because they're out there and they already have constituency. So if you can layer on top of theirs, we actually used to call them PALs, partners, affiliations, and licensees. So all of those people can be a way of extending your brand. And I just saw this one great one. I don't know if you guys have seen this. You guys are all familiar with Liquid Death, right? So their crazies are this, it's only water, but it's marketed as like AC/DC rock and roll music. So they just did this a partnership with Ozzy Osbourne. Google Ozzy Osbourne and Liquid Death. They basically took his saliva. They asked him to drink 10 cans of Liquid Death. So now his DNA was on the cans. And they sealed them up in little clear tubes, and they auctioned them off for $500 a piece. So in the future, if you wanted to reincarnate Ozzy Osbourne, you could. And then they went for examples. Here's what an 80s Ozzy would look like at your backyard barbecue. You've got blood coming out of his mouth. So they totally used a partner of Ozzy Osbourne, and they recreated what that would mean for their brand. So that's really cool.
Okay. Reggie, let's talk consistency, because that's something that's really hard, as you're like trying to manage the books, get your product out there, whatever it is, and then marketing, and it's like personally, it's like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really good at posting or doing this or that, and other times I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't had the interest or wanted to in a while. How do you keep consistency? What great advice would you give people?
As it pertains to branding, or as it pertains to...
Just branding, and microphone.
So the biggest thing is, so the biggest thing for me, when it comes to consistency across and through your brand, with all the touch points that it has, is having a brand guide. Brand guide gives you all of your components, all of your fonts, all your tone and voice, your how do you talk about the brand, how do you what kind of photographs really represent your brand. And so having a brand guide is really essential. Now, granted, I didn't list it as one of those essentials for the 6-month broke startup. However, once they got to a point where they actually were starting to get some revenue, having a brand guide built is essential to having that continuity, because anybody that has to touch a brand, if you're having a designer make some point of purchase displays for you, or you're having a trade show and you need that trade show, all those graphics to represent your brand, you obviously need to have some consistency across your brand. So that's it, really. A brand guide is like your brand Bible. It has all those things in it, and you just make sure that everybody has them.
And I think part of your question, Erica, was like, how do you stay motivated to continually represent the brand? So the tool, that's an essential tool, but the way we work with a lot of our clients is when that initial energy is there, put together a 12-month plan of what you need to do over the next 12 months. And kind of counter or additive to what Jenner was saying about don't really have a plan with social media, just have fun and go into a room. We think it's not an either or, but it's a both and, right? So have a plan. What message you want to be saying every single month of the year on social media, generally speaking. Obviously it will change, but then you use that initial energy in working with a client or working with your own brand to get it all on paper, so that now you're like, okay, it's July, what should I be talking about? You don't have to be motivated to do that. So in social media specifically, and email marketing, and all those things that are easy and quote unquote free for a smaller company, put a plan together.
Like a roadmap, let you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, there's two types of content, right? There's evergreen content and there's timely content. And to their point, like when you have that plan, like really focus on that evergreen content that's like going to be useful and relevant year round, no matter when you post it. Like you could post it on Christmas, you could post it in July, and it wouldn't matter. The timely stuff is where you want to leave spaces in your plan, and get flexible and be able to ride that wave of the internet and really feel it out. And I work with a lot of creators and brands that get really burnt out. They're like, oh my God, I'm just a content machine, just like posting all the time, I hate it. And that stuff never does well. I'm a big energy person. I think that the algorithm works that way too. And when you're just posting just to post, just to get stuff out, it really probably isn't going to perform the way that you want it to. When you post from a place of like inspiration strikes, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to create this, let's go. That's usually when things blow up and get a lot of traction. So I would say like leave holes in your plan for those timely inspiration strikes, reactive moments to what's going on, and move those evergreen things around. If World War III is breaking out, maybe we don't want to talk about certain things right now, you know what I mean? So it's always awesome to have that backbone of evergreen content in that plan, but it's going to change, and you should embrace that change and be flexible to it.
I'll add something to that, because Jenner did speak to one thing that I think is something we probably all face or kind of border on here and there, and that's burnout. And I think that, and I'm sure most of us try to strive for this, but work-life balance is so important. Like work can't be the most important thing in your life. And if you spend all your time and energy chasing that carrot, you will get burnout. And burnout's a really hard thing to come back from. But in terms of being able to be consistent and stay motivated to love your work, to love the stuff that you do for your craft, you got to make sure you take care of yourself. You got to make sure you do those things and find those things that bring you joy. Because if you don't have that anchor, you're on a slippery slope to burnout, and the whole thing, none of it will matter at that point. So.
That's great advice. I keep checking it off so I don't count it. But that's some great advice. We all need that. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the internet. AI. Yeah. What do you like to use it for? What do you not use it for? This is for anybody.
I'll start. So, I think AI is just one of those things that everybody is kind of afraid of. We don't know what it can do. Is it going to take our jobs? Is it, or there's people that are in the camp where they're like, I don't want to touch it. And when I think about those guys, I think about, because I'm also a commercial photographer, I think about those guys who did not want to switch to digital photography. They were like, oh yeah, it's never going to be as good as, our, tried and true workhorse manual, cameras. And those guys got left in the dust. Like, people shifted to becoming digital photographers, and they were meeting the calls, they were getting the calls, they were getting the content. And these guys were like, I'm going to give you my, I'm going to go back to my studio and develop my negatives and get you some prints in like 3 to 5 days, and it doesn't work. So to that point, I say AI is a very similar beast. You have to learn about it. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Use it to your advantage. Now, will you use it to do everything that you're supposed to do? No. I think right now we're at a stage where AI is one of those things that's supplemental. You use it to give you a starting point, but you're still going to need that human touch. I think the human touch is the thing that really connects to people. We're not machines, and so AI doesn't speak to us like we are humans. And so it's very easy to actually discern content that comes from AI, certainly at this point. So I say embrace it and use it to give you, 1, generate ideas and inspiration. 2, if you're a writer and you're trying to write content, you can use it to give you a good starting point, but then go in and humanize it. And then I think just the biggest thing is don't be afraid of it. Like, just embrace it. Just understand it, work around, try to just use little bits of it in your daily workflow and just see how it can give you a little bit of an edge. And just start there. That makes sense.
I totally agree with that. On the note of not being afraid of it, it's actually kind of crap. When I used it for content ideas, I mean, I will feed it, I will spend an hour like inserting all of this information, like giving it as much as I possibly can, and it's learned everything about my style and my voice, and it still pumps out mediocre ideas. So it's kind of, you know, I definitely leverage it as a tool. I train it on all of my clients, and so it gets smarter over time. And that's kind of how the algorithm works on social media. I like to refer to the algorithm as a Furby. In the 90s, when you got a Furby, you took it out of the box, and it was so dumb. It didn't know anything about you. And like over time, it learns your name and your phrases and things to say back to you. That's how the algorithm works. That's how AI works. The algorithm is AI. So once you understand that, it's all about feeding it information and having it learn about you, and like it wants to work for you. Like the algorithm wants to make your content go viral, because if you're making good content, it's going to keep people on their platforms for longer, and that's what their ultimate goal is. So I think, you know, leverage AI to a certain extent, but just use it as more of like you're learning about yourself, and it's more of a mirror reflecting back to you, like how much you've grown and how much you've evolved over time. The other thing I like to use AI for is like, as it floods the feed of social media, there's always a pendulum swing. And part of my job is to kind of forecast trends, because I know like I'm emotionally processing so much of the internet all the time, and I'm a few steps ahead of most people. And so I can see where things are gonna go. And right now, there's so much AI content, like Reggie said. If there's an M dash or an ellipses in copy, you know it was written by AI. Like 100%. Every other sentence is an M dash. Like, it's crazy. So people are starting to get sick of it, even if they're not conscious of that. Their subconscious is starting to get really tired of it. So in terms of trends, we're seeing the pendulum swing to the other side. People getting out whiteboards and sloppy handwriting, or writing things on a sign, or even handwriting things on an iPad and turning it into a graphic on Canva and posting that instead of like a beautiful font. So bringing in that human touch, that humanness into the content in that way is being informed by this AI wave. And so I would say find ways to like insert that humanness into your brand, into your content. Like, don't be afraid to embrace your crappy handwriting, because actually people are craving it over this super polished stuff.
I agree with both of you. Don't be afraid, and insert humanness. And also, I'll just add something else and not repeat any of that because it's all solid. But use it, experiment with it, I guess. In addition to don't be afraid, experiment. One of the things that I was at a conference in DC last fall that Reggie and Tim were going to go to, but we didn't all get together on it because of this thing called a hurricane. But I ended up getting out of town, and I just ran into this guy who did education platforms, and he said, you got to check out HeyGen.ai. So I'm like, okay, check it out. So we do, for our client, the World Pancreatic Cancer Coalition, we do a global campaign every year, and in the past 5 years, we've only been able to put text on the screen with nobody talking, because the cost of translating and creating 12 different videos was a lot more expensive than changing out the text on the screen. With HeyGen, we can literally put a person on the screen and just write the script into HeyGen and then pick the language, and their lip flap and their mouth will move exactly like they're talking any language. So now, our campaign for this year features 12 different languages, people on camera, VO for the whole thing in all 12 languages. So, like, learn and experiment. And at first it wasn't exactly right. You could tell it was kind of funky looking. So now we've decided, like, let's just use the person for 2 seconds or 3 seconds of a 15-second thing, as opposed to letting them be the whole thing. And then also, Evan, who's on our native marketing team, has been totally digging into the back end of PageN. So, like, okay, you put a comma, or if you make the word bold, there's emphasis, and how you slow it down, speed it up, so you get the right cadence of the words. So experiment with AI, look for new things, search for ways that other companies are using AI, because it is freaking powerful. It's unbelievably powerful, as we all know. A little bit scary, but powerful.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one more question for each of you to answer, and then we're gonna kick it to the audience for the audience questions. Okay, if you could give only one piece of advice for people starting a business in 2025, what would it be?
Find your crazies.
Make sure you're passionate about that thing that you're embarking on.
Be bold, baby. Like, have a bold perspective. It is not the year to be watered down, to try and appease everyone, to speak everyone's language, to, I call it the American Idol effect. You're trying to reach, like, 10 million people. Actually now, the more you niche down, the bolder you get in your perspectives, the more crazies you're gonna attract, and that's just gonna build. And those niche audiences are bigger now than those American Idol audiences. So there's no such thing as being mainstream. There's no such thing as being normal. And on that note, like, everyone on the internet tries to be popular the way they were in high school. They try to fit in. They try to wear the right clothes. They try to say the right things, hang out with the cool kids. It is the absolute opposite. The way to be popular on the internet is to stand out as much as possible, to be as different as possible. And the only way you're going to do that is take risks. And that's the last thing that brands are doing right now. And the only ones that are winning. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Questions from the audience? Raise your hands. Great wisdom, thank you. My question is coming for the solopreneurs out there, especially those of us who are, well, my way to stand out is because I deal in deep attention. So is there some way to appeal to people on platforms that are goldfish-like attention with something that's deeper? Like, do you have any ideas? Right now I'm focusing on email marketing just because it is a little slower in my mind.
Yes. I mean, there is a myth that we all have goldfish attention spans, and to a large extent that could be true. But there are also times when we listen to a 3-hour podcast, and that's not a goldfish attention span. I think you have to make content for the format and user behavior that people are looking for on that specific platform. And trust is the currency of the internet right now. So once you build that trust by meeting them where they're at, say they're on Instagram, and that's more of a goldfish attention span, right? Or more of a, like, collect identity tokens and share it to my story and my friends. You tease them with these, like, deeper concepts, and you get their trust, and then you translate them over to a longer form platform or format or medium or whatever. There's a great Instagram called We Think Deeply. They have, I think, like almost 700,000 followers, and they create these carousels of quotes that are like 15 sentences that hit me like a train, or 11 truths that give me goosebumps. And they're really like deep thoughts, but it's just a collection of different thoughts, and they're a carousel post, and so you can choose your favorite one and share it to your story, share it to your friends. these posts get like 650,000 likes each. It's crazy. They're building trust with their audience of like, oh, these people are good. Like they're gonna motivate me or inspire me. And so now I want to sign up for their newsletter. Now I want to sign up for their longer form YouTube channel or whatever it might be. So I would say like we all have goldfish attention spans, but we also all have that appetite for more. And again, it's like that pendulum swing, you know, like the more short form content we consume, we're like, oh, I just want to listen to something for 2 hours, please, you know? So there is an appetite for that, but you just have to meet them on the platform in the medium that they're used to and then get them over.
Are you spending money on social
Can you pass me
media? Are you spending any money on social media or just using organic social? Because like you could also do another experiment, which would be take $100, take $200, and go onto Meta and look at all the behavioral traits or the kind of the background traits of people. Find those people who would be most interested in what you have to do. Just see what happens. Just put a short form bit up on an ad and drive them to a blog post on your site or drive them somewhere else. For a couple $100, you could get a good test.
Just see how effective it is.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Questions? Raise your hand high. Yeah, Brett.
Don't give him a mic.
Don't give McCall the mic.
Why? Barely got the mic in my hand. Hi guys. Hi Jenner. The question that I have is partly inspired by something that John Green said about October, November, when the political rhetoric in the space was just overwhelmingly negative and divisive. And he said that if there's a cesspool and he's pouring in pure water, it doesn't reduce the stink or make it less of a cesspool, it just raises the level of the cesspool. And so the question that I have is around content. We're in a content-saturated universe and a fragmented space. There's X, there's TikTok, I could go on and on and on and on and on. And Jenna, you actually mentioned getting shares into the private spaces where the brands can't access. But my question is more around, like, I'm craving spaces. I'm craving conversations. I'm craving deeper connection. And so it may be connected to what Carrie was saying around, like, how do we, I don't think more content is the answer. I don't think that zero content is the answer, but what are other solutions than just adding more noise to the already noisy universe?
At the end of the day, it still comes down to who are you trying to talk to. And if you're talking about from a marketing perspective, not just I want to engage socially in conversations, but if you have a product or if you have a service that you're offering, you really need to spend a lot of time narrowing down who you want to communicate with. And then find out what platforms those folks are using to then create. It might not be social media at all. It might be that you host an event or you host an event in 10 cities that are just you going into that city, cultivating a local crowd and standing in front of them and talking about your product. So the conversations have to be sculpted around who you're talking to. And I agree. I mean, I don't spend much time on social media at all. Because I'm in marketing, you have to. And so I love the idea of setting up a webinar, a Zoom call with people that you don't even know, but inviting them to attend your forum. So just getting the right people in the right places. I think that's one solution. It's a great question.
I think that's great advice. And to piggyback on something that Jenner said earlier and what Craig just said, I think people are so, and to your point, right, like people are so overwhelmingly surrounded by digital stuff all the time. Physical spaces, human connection. That's why you guys are all here, you know. If this was a Zoom, there'd probably be like maybe half the people here, honestly, because we're all kind of zoomed out and Zoom calls all day. The more you can create tangible experiences, if it's a product or if it's a service, a pop-up, you know, like Craig said, some kind of a, you know, webinar or something, but the more you can channel people into physical interactions, I think people are really craving that right now. I know I am, you know. I think, you know, it's gotten to the point where we are just constantly inundated with content just coming from us in every different direction, even when we don't ask for it. You know, you open up your computer and, you know, it's just all there. So yeah, stepping away from that and going to have a lunch with a group of people that have expressed interest in the kind of thing in that group, and starts there.
I think that why is such a good place to start for content. Like he said, we're all craving it. We're all feeling that. So say that. Make content about that. The other thing is too, like, we are so numbers driven on social media. It's like how many views, how many likes, you know, what was the reach, all this stuff. We are so desensitized to what that number looks like in real life. There's about 40 to 50 people in this room. If your post gets 1,000 views, that's like so much more than what's in this room. And so I think instead of being numbers driven on content, like be quality driven. Like I only want to find the people that I'm talking to that really resonate with this, that are trying to like find real community and deeply connect with people, and that it's okay if it's only 30, because 30 is like basically this gathering, you know? So I think if you start from that why that you have, like I'm craving community, I'm craving spaces, I'm craving real connection, you use that as inspiration for the content and you attract the right people, it becomes less about the numbers, you know?
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Don't give him the mic either. I was going to try and stump him with something. This is just a rapid fire question. What is the newest trend you can see right now? The furthest out.
Oh, good
Newest
one.
trend.
If you're stumped, you can ring the gong. I mean, we can just come in and
You know, I would say kind of to what we were just talking about, like more in-person things, like getting further away from digital, even if momentarily, and trying to find things that are actually tangible, whether it's, you know, having a select few people that are part of your audience and sending them some kind of tangible thing that is branded, that reminds them of who you are, but it's something that's useful. I think that's something that we discount. Like people like things, tangible things. It's probably the best I can.
Yeah, I mean, that's been going on for a while, and it's like, it's building traction, especially as we get into AI. But I think that the trend that's out there is how much AI is going to take over everything, that we don't even understand the capacity of that yet. And it's not just what we think about as non-creative, repetitive, administrative work. It will come into the creative world, absolutely. Like I just mentioned, video creation, image creation, content will keep getting better. It's only going to keep getting better by magnitudes. And so the question will be, and we read about in the press, is what will that do to employment in these different areas? How much will you need to think about that? And then also how, you know, they're saying is AI won't take your job, but somebody who understands AI will take your job. How do you position yourself in that world to be ready for that change?
Yeah, I agree with both of them. I think back to my earlier point, it's imperfection. People like mistakes, they like sloppy handwriting, they like misspelled words sometimes. They like to see you fail and talk about it. It's very relatable. So it's all kind of that humanness element. I think too, like brands like are, you know, they're trying to be very brand forward, and that feels like an ad now because there's so much content out there. So I think the less branded away from the days of like the polished Instagram grid, and we're getting into more just like real, honest reactions to what's going on in the world. And that radical vulnerability is also a huge trend in content underlying everything. It's like to say exactly what's going on, not what you want the world to perceive about your brand. Like, if you're struggling as a business, you know, day 500 of not making a single sale would probably go viral for you over, you know, some super branded, polished piece of content. So having that radical vulnerability that leads to that imperfection, I think, is a huge trend I've seen.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, go.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I think that was the last question. There was one thing I did want to leave you guys with as it pertains to branding, because I get this question all the time, and it's ultimately like, how do you, people are looking for a very like systematic like machine to like plug their stuff in and get something out on the other end as it pertains to branding. And we have a friend who's just, now, anybody in the house heard of Pentagram branding agency? Michael Beirut, our friend, stepping down, and he has a quote that I think should be taken to heart, and it's, most processes leave out the things that most people don't talk about, and it's magic, intuition, and a leap of faith. Just keep those in mind, because it's not always systematic or machine. You gotta leave room for a little bit of that magic and spark.
So I'm gonna go through the announcements. You guys hang out for a second, but close your eyes because I'm gonna turn on. Okay, we don't want you to be blinded and not releasing the button yet. But I'm gonna go through the announcements, and then when we close, we're all gonna come up and get a picture all together. Speaking of real inline content creation. Okay, this is our brand new initiative. It is called Bring Your Own Cup. If you brought your own cup, now is where we all cheers each other. I'm gonna cheers. There we go. Cheers! Love it. Okay. We are still looking for 2 organizers, so if you have some of these skills and want to come in and contribute to our awesome volunteer team, we'd love to hear from you. Just see one of us at the end. Can all the volunteers raise their hands right now? And if you guys can put your hands in the air. Big thanks to our event sponsors, Charlie and Troy Ball, who generously donate this space each and every week, Western Carolina University, SCORE, EOS Entrepreneurial Systems, ERC Broadband, Goldman Sachs Small Business, Dynamite Coffee Roasting Company, Brookshire Garsey Group, and Hatch Co-working. By the way, we spend most of our marketing dollars on events. Like, that is the majority of our marketing budget, which I forgot that I wanted to share that on it. I was like, because Sean and I thought about it, and it's been fruitful. So I think, yeah, he was right. I'll just admit it now in front of everyone. Is it being recorded? Okay. We have launched a new sponsorship opportunity. We're putting together some awesome name tags. So for $50, you get a name tag and a mug. And your name tag has your mug on it, and it goes to support all of the back-end things for 1 million cups. If that's something that interests you, maybe see Sarah right after this. Yes, okay. Coming up next week, happy 4th of July. I hope you'll be off enjoying the holiday week, because we will. Yeah, but then the following week after that, I'm trying to remember who it is. I should know this. Well, it's in the spreadsheet. But we've got a really exciting July planned. And then heads up, we're going to take August off, regroup, come back, full force, September. Very exciting. Now, if we can have Sarah from UNCA talk about Leadership Asheville. The applications are now open.
It's on? Great. Hey, good morning. My name is Sarah Goldman. I am the Executive Director of Leadership Asheville. Just Real quick, on a +1 Earl Hunter and Black Book Scam 2. If you have not been in a room with that man, find a way to get in that room. And thank this panel, because that was incredible content, incredible content. All right, well, I'm here to find my crazies, okay? How many folks in this room have heard of Leadership Asheville? Outstanding. How many folks are any alumni in the room? All right, one-ish. Less outstanding. Hey, Leadership Asheville is a community engagement program that is designed to develop leaders in our community for supporting the city of Asheville. These are in-person, real-life experiences. We have 2 programs that are running. The flagship program is a 9-month cohort that meets monthly, about 12 sessions total, and come and be in a group of about 35 to 40 other community leaders, learning about our city and also learning about yourself and your own personal development and growth. Our flagship program, cohort number 44, year 44 of this program, applications are open now through July 15th. I'm going to set my business card out by the coffee. Please grab that if you're interested in the program. The other program, real quick, is the Executive Directors Roundtable. So if you're someone in this room who's a chief executive and want to find a space for collaboration with other chief executives, that is the program for you as well. So thank you, Erica, for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Sarah. And this Sunday, the White Rose Lit Society is happening. Meet the author of Thrill Ride. She wrote some awesome fan fiction for Star Wars and Marvel, and this is her new novel, Thrill Ride. I loaned it to a friend and just got it back last night, so I've got some heavy reading to do between now and then. Sign up for our 1 Million Cups newsletter. So as most of you know, like all the back end of our marketing for 1 Million Cups changed recently. And so this is the way that you find out what's going on each and every week. This is going to bring you to the 1 Million Cups platform. You can create a little profile and say opt in for the newsletter. And if you want to present, you do that right on the same platform. So hopefully we're not bombarding you with too many QR codes this morning. But you can have one more. There you go. If you want to sponsor, there's one more QR code. Awesome. Okay, well, let's all come up to the stage and put our hands together for our amazing panel. This is really inspiring this morning. So if you can give them all a round of applause. I'm going to come to the stage because we are going to take the group photo.